Hello, Dumelang, Sanbonani, and Goeiemiddag. Hello, South Africa, and welcome to Coffee Chat, brought to you by the SA Properties Investors Network on this very, very rainy and chilly Monday in Johannesburg. It's official. It's my birthday tomorrow, and it's quite gloomy, but we keep it moving. It's quite nippy in Johannesburg, so I want to know what the weather is like where you are from. Now today's show is a bit different, right? We keep it fresh, we keep it, energized, and ordinarily we have live shows with live guests. But as you know, part of our power team in the SA Properties Investors Network is very, very important and very, very busy people. So today's show is going to be pre-recorded by a phenomenal lady of the name Faith Diketane, who is a qualified civil engineer and project manager, I beg your pardon, which I will introduce a little later. So unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to ask her live questions. However, please, I do urge you to still put your questions in the comment box, and there is a link to support. So whatever questions you ask, there is a link to support at SA Property. We will make sure that Faith gets these questions. Yes, we'll make sure that Faith gets these questions, and we will be able to get those questions answered for you. So do not hesitate. Just because it's pre-recorded doesn't mean it's not informative or that you won't get your questions answered. Okay. As always, I'm just going to give you an update of all of the events that are going to be happening today. So March has ended. We are in April, guys. Can you believe it? You blink and it's going to be June, and you're going to blink again, it's going to be October, and the year is going to have ended. They always say that the years are short, but the days are long. So in April, what we're going to be doing is on the 16th of April, we're going to be having deal night. And this is invite only, unfortunately. So check your DMs and check your emails if you get the invites to deal night. On the 18th, we're having a networking event in Durban. Yes, Durban. We're coming to see you guys. We're having a networking event that side. And then on the 27th and 28th, we are going to be having a 2-day practical property workshop. Okay, that's going to be happening now. And then on the 25th of May, we are having a SAPIN Women event. The last one we had was literally last week Saturday, and it was absolutely phenomenal. It was gracious. We were literally talking about how to access finance. Ladies, yes, property moguls and extraordinaires. There's another event happening, and that's the BRRR strategy. And as we know, that is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. And this is happening in Rivonia. Let's try to see you would say that 5 times really quickly. But on so that's happening on the 25th of May. On the 7th of June, we're having a youth event, or rather young professionals. That's going to be happening then. So please go to our website. The link is in the chat box to find out all of these dates and whichever event that you are interested in. Then on the 15th of June, we're celebrating Youth Month. Super excited about that one. And that's going to be happening on the 15th of June. Then the 7th of July is another SAPIN Women event, and that's multi-let strategies. I know this is a lot of events, but as always, we want to keep you updated so you can diarize these events. Then on the 16th and to the 18th of July, we're having a affiliate event with the Reside. That is a conference that's going to be happening, and SAPIN is going to be there. And lastly, on the 17th, as always, we're having our annual SAPIN Women's event celebrating women on that month. And then on the 14th of September, it is the one, the only Investor of the Year award. I don't know how excited you guys are, but I'm super excited. We're already getting our contestants going on. We're already getting our entrants, and I urge all of you, whether big or small, please enter. You never know what might happen. You might be the 2024 Investor of the Year. I'm super excited about that. Now, our topic for today is going to be what not to do. And for those of you who it's your first time with the coffee chat and you don't particularly know who SA Properties Investors Network is, well, it's simple. We are a network of like-minded individuals who want to help you either start or grow your property journey. Yes, it really is that simple. right? So if you have any, education that you want to know, or you need coaching or anything of that facet, SAPIN is your one-stop shop. Just simply like today in our coffee chat, we have a pre-recording with a phenomenal lady by the name of Faith, and she, as I mentioned, is a civil engineer and a product manager, and she has gone through a lot of projects. She has done a lot of projects, and she's seen mistakes that have happened on projects like constructions or refurbishing or things like that. And she's going to be giving us her tidbits and her insights onto that. And like I said, because it's pre-recorded, unfortunately, you can't ask live questions. However, don't let that stop you. Please still ask your questions, and just email them to support@SA Properties Investors Network. The link is in the chat box, and then we'll make sure that Faith answers your questions and get you aligned with Faith if you need a project manager. So without further ado, let's find out as investors what not to do. Ladies and gentlemen, Faith.
Hi, Faith.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Well, thank you. Could you please tell us about yourself?
Great. I'm a qualified civil engineer. I'm also a registered project management professional. I've worked in the power industry. I've worked in the mining and mineral processing plants. My skills have extended from project management, developing projects, project engineering, business development, and I've also done project management systems for organizations.
And in your experience, what are some key factors that property managers should avoid overlooking or neglecting during the construction process?
First and foremost, it's important to close out the engineering phase of the project. So in the property space, that relates to the finalization of the architectural layouts. It's important that the layouts are not detailed to an extent where they are suitable just for municipal or council approval, but they are in a detail that for construction, as the client, you are able to set your budget based on what is required to be done during construction, but also it sets the scopes for the various contractors that will be appointed to do the construction phase of the project. Another aspect that needs to be considered now, we are looking at appointment of contractors. It's important to vet contractors and check for their compatibility to carry out the scope of the work. In vetting the contractors, it's important to, in the bidding process, provide them with a scope of work for the work that you would like for them to execute. So once you've got your scope of works, once you've got your bill of quantities, you also tell them, in this bidding process, these are the requirements that we require from you. It's not just a one-page quotation. The quotation needs to detail what is included as part of the cost and what is excluded from the cost. What is excluded from the cost but is a requirement for the project will have to be carried out by another contractor, or the same contractor may be required to include that scope into the cost. So it's important for, during the bidding process, the client to provide a detailed scope of the work that needs to be completed and the requirements that the client requires from the contractor during the phase of the project, from start all the way to project closeout.
Have you encountered instances where poor communication between contractors, architects, and project managers resulted in delays or quality issues during construction?
Definitely. It's irrespective of how big or small the project is. Communication is crucial in a project. So in order to understand which communication channels to follow, it's important to understand the different stakeholders involved in the project. As a property manager, it's important to identify within your management team who would need to be informed, who would need to be consulted, who would need to be super active on a project. As the client, it is important to also have a technical representative that will oversee the project. while you have appointed the contractor needs a central point or a contact person where progress will be reported. Invoices are sent out so that the person oversees payment of that contractor so that they may proceed with the follow-on works. So communication is very crucial across all project stakeholders, from the contractor to your project manager, all external consultants. They need to have a central place where information is shared about the project and risks are discussed so that we all meet the project objectives.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
What are the potential consequences of not conducting thorough inspections or quality checks at various stages of the construction process?
When looking into the property space, it's twofold. It's either you're working on a greenfield project. This is where you are building a structure from the ground up. So you've acquired the land and all you have to do is start construction from the ground up. But in most cases, there's brownfields projects. This is where you're already working on a pre-existing house. So once you've acquired the house, it's important to understand the defects that come with the house. It could be differential settlement, it could be leaks on the roof, it could be electrical cabling that are non-compliant, and many other aspects. So it's important, just after acquiring a property or while you are in the offering phase of that the buying process, it's important for the property manager to at least appoint a technical representative that will thoroughly inspect the property and explain to the property manager what additional works will be required on the property before it is, one, compliant to standard, or two, habitable. If a property needs a new roof, that is cost implications on the property manager. If the electrical wiring is not up to standard and it has to be redone for the whole house, that's additional cost to the property manager. And that information needs to be understood before any form of construction can happen. In certain cases, before an offer to purchase is placed, that information is required.
Can you discuss the importance of proper planning and scheduling to prevent delays and cost overruns during property construction? Okay,
so previously I have mentioned understanding the different stakeholders that are involved in a project. If you have a technical representative, let's say it's a project manager, part of the project management team involves a planner. Assume you in one project, you've got contractor A that's doing the building works, contractor B is doing electrical works, contractor C is doing the plumbing. So you've got three different contractors that need to work together. Contractor A will give you their own project plan. This involves when they're going to start the project and when they're going to finish the projects, including the various milestones within the project phase. That applies to contractor B and contractor C. As the project manager or the project planner, it's important to combine all of those project plans from the respective contractors and get a holistic project plan that will give you the estimated completion of the project. And this is where you are taking the key and giving it to the property manager as part of the handover. So it's important for the client to know, if I'm starting the project now, when is it going to finish? That should align with the costs. If an extension of time is required, another amount of money is required from the client, and it forms part of budgeting. At the beginning of construction, once you have an estimated time for completing construction, that forms part of the budget. and the client is able to say, this is how much I'm going to spend from point A to point B. Should there be an extension, I do not foresee this extension proceeding to maybe 2 months. Therefore, I will put in a budget for an extra 2 months or an extra 3 months. It depends on the complexity of the project. It depends on various aspects as well.
Are there any lessons learned from the past construction projects where mistakes or oversights during the construction phase and significant consequences of the property?
There is. Let me cover contract conditions. It's important for the conditions of contract to detail what is required from the contractor and the client commercially. This highlights communication timeframes. If, as a contractor, I'm sending an email to the client, the contract of conditions should say the client has 3 days to respond to my email. Beyond 3 days, I assume my idea or that query has been accepted and therefore I may proceed. And likewise, if a client requests certain information from the contractor, it is assumed beyond the set date the information has been approved and will be executed. It also covers the extension of time, cost implications, if there's any changes to the scope or surprises happen on a construction project. They need to be communicated effectively. They need to be detailed effectively on the contract. So contract conditions should be clear, contract conditions should be in place, and contract conditions should be followed by all stakeholders. Another lesson that was learned goes back to reporting or communication. Parts of the contract conditions should also say what is required from the contractor. We require weekly progress reports. We require weekly schedule updates. We require 1, 2, 3. Once those are stipulated, the contractor during the bidding process is already aware of what needs to be provided to the client during the construction phase. There's a lot of surprises when you're working on brownfield projects, and it is as expected that today there's a leak that was not anticipated. This means that the whole pipe needs to be replaced. That's cost implications, including other things. So a contract of conditions just puts sets of rules that need to be followed, whether you are the contractor, whether you are an external consultant, or whether you're a specialist or the client. It just puts rules as to this is how we're going to govern the project, and this is what we're going to follow. Lesson learned number 3. This would go around risk management. While conducting a project or constructing the project, it's important to say, okay, if this imminent weather, we might not be able to work today. This is a day lost on the project. Now, how do we handle it with the client? It needs to be communicated. How many hours have you lost? How does that impact the overall schedule? And what are the cost implications? Risks need to be identified, no matter how small of a risk it is, no matter how big of a risk it is, and in as much as it has the likelihood of affecting the project, be it positively or negatively, it needs to be communicated and recorded properly. Quality management as well. The client, in as much as the contractor has a site technical supervisor or a form of technical support, it's important that the client has their own technical representative or site supervisor. They will oversee all of the contractors. Contractor A is doing this, contractor B is doing that, but at the same time, while having weekly meetings and reporting back to the client, they are also managing on site, having weekly meetings with the contractor and making sure that the contractors are meeting their own daily goals or weekly goals, even monthly goals, and they are able to foresee risks before they occur or any potential threat to the property. It is possible during construction you don't identify all stakeholders. Let's say, for example, neighbors. We normally mind our own business, but there's something that might happen that the neighbor can actually impact on the project. It could be a broken window from activities from the property. Now a branch has fallen into the neighbor. The neighbor might come and delay a project, or not just delaying a project, it's additional cost because the risk has gone past the project boundaries or battery limits. So such things have to be in place, and the project need to be set up properly. Internally, as the client, how do we go about conducting our procurement process? How many quotations do we require? Are we going to stick with one person? Are we going to stick with 5 people to do different scopes and whatnot? Therefore, we require a project manager that will manage all of these 5 contractors. We require a cost controller. We require a quantity surveyor to do measurements on site. There's many aspects and lessons learned that they are ever growing, and there's more each time you work on a different project. But it's important to also record them before the next project. See what challenges you've experienced in the previous project. Jot down what can be done right, what can be changed. Certain habits can be amended from the client side, certain habits can be amended from the contractor side. And should you proceed with some of these contractors on the next project, you sit down, this is what we've learned from the previous project, and this is how we wish to proceed. Can this work? Project management or construction, or let me just say property or the engineering industry, it's not about working in isolation. It's about working as a team, and it is important that communication is prioritized over many other aspects, as it forms the basis of the failure or success of the project.
And do you have any advice for property investors?
I do, and my advice is proper planning prevents poor performance. Rather spend days planning the project. It includes cost, it includes scope, it includes how you're going to execute the project, how you're going to manage finances, cost control, ensuring that there are no delays with paying contractors, and many other things. Rather plan before construction starts than to experience delays that can have significant impact on costs during construction, on quality during construction. Standards need to be set before construction starts, and standards need to be monitored throughout construction all the way to project closure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen, that was Faith Diketane. I know that was, wow. I have learned so much from that. And as I said, please don't hesitate to ask your questions. You can put your questions in the chat box, or you can email us your questions to Faith at support@SA Property Investors Network. The link is in the chat box. I know, where's you? Thank you so much. You're saying you are watching us from Kempton Park. Yeah, you're just like us. It's cold, it's rainy, it's gloomy. Oh my gosh. However, I want to say thank you very much to our guest, Faith, who unfortunately couldn't join us live. So we made a plan because we wanted to afford you guys this level of information, and, to understand that project managers are important. Oftentimes people try to cut costs in simple things like, no, I'll manage it myself, but you don't know what you don't know. And it's always best to have an expert there. Now, before I say goodbye, I just want to give you another roundup of all the events that are going to be happening, so that you guys can diarize these. And as always, the events are on our website, so the link is in the chat box, so you can just check it out there. So the first one we're going to be having is that on the 16th, we're having deal night, and unfortunately it is invite only. Then on the 18th of April, Durban, I hope you guys are watching because we're going to be there for a public networking event that's going to be happening in Durban. Then on the 27th and the 28th of April, it's going to be a 2-day practical property workshop that's happening. I beg your pardon, dates do need to be confirmed. And then that's in Johannesburg. Then on the 25th of May, ladies, as always, we're going to be showing up for our SAPIN Women's event. And that's to buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. And that's happening in Rivonia. Yeah, tongue twister of note. Then on the 7th of July, we're having a Young Professionals event. And then on the 15th of July, we're having another Young Professionals event. And that's to celebrate Youth Month. And then on the 17th of July, we're going to be having a multi-let as a strategy for SAPIN women events, beg your pardon. And then on the 16th to the 18th, we will be at the Reside Conference. Yes, we're going to be at the Reside Conference happening in the Sandton Convention Center. So cannot wait to see you there. SAPIN and SA Property Investors Network is going to be there. 17th of August is the big one, ladies and gentlemen. It is the annual women's event where we celebrate women and we celebrate women in property. And lastly, on the 14th of September, we're going to be having Investor of the Year. If you're not there, you're square, right? So it doesn't matter big or small. It doesn't matter how big or small the deal is. Please enter Investor of the Year Award. And that is at our website, www.investoroftheyearaward. And as always, from me to you,